to talk about the impact of trucking on a marriage, you know. Any married couple, as if I've been married, but I listen a lot, man. I pay attention to what goes on. I pay attention to people calling in. I pay attention to my friends that's been married, situations they've gone through, you know, and everything. And it's pretty easy to plainly see that marriage takes a humongous amount of work, you know. And so when you go and you add to the marriage a scenario in which one of the spouses is a truck driver, oh my goodness, the challenge is crazy, man. So, you know, it's important that should you choose to become a truck driver, you have an understanding and an awareness of how much work is involved in keeping the marriage healthy, because it's going to be twice as important that you apply those principles, that attitude, that mindset, you know, into making the marriage work as a trucker away from home. You know what I mean? You cannot be a thoughtless, self-centered, I don't know how this works in a regular marriage or relationship, but if you're going to be a trucker on the road away from home, there's no way in the world you're going to have a happy marriage being self-centered and thoughtless. A taker from the relationship. Any relationship is going to have a hard time when one person gives more and tries harder to make that relationship work than the other person. When you throw trucking into that scenario, that already dysfunctional scenario, you're asking for a problem. So, I mean, the reason I'm bringing this up, man, is because this is the number one disadvantage of being a trucker, dealing with the negative impact on the family, you know, on the marriage. You have to maintain a certain level of communication, you know. To be honest with you, all it really takes is for you to put yourself in your spouse's shoes. That's pretty much all it takes if you want to narrow it. I mean, if you want to summarize the behavior you need to display, you know. If it was your spouse, if it was your wife that was going over the road, you don't want her to be connected with somebody in every town they go to on the internet, as one person wrote me up, as one person posted a comment about. If it's your wife that's out of town, you don't want her, what are you doing, man? You don't want her to be of a mindset that her objective is to go out every new town she goes to. What kind of lifestyle is that for a married person out over the road? If you're concerned about your marriage, if you're concerned about your relationship, you know, that's really a high level of immaturity. And I just want y'all to think about how these things play out if you're going to do it. I mean, you're just going to have to make a lot better decisions than the decisions that I see being made that these wives complain about that are at home. because of these drivers on the road. And then for those few drivers that are out there actually getting involved with other women on the road, you may feel a certain level of freedom because you're out on the road away from home. You know, you feel like you're out of sight, you're a long distance away, and you can't get back. First of all, you know, what goes around comes around in one way or another. And even if it can't be factually proven what's going on, you know, except for those cases where you end up with a child or you end up with a disease and you take it back home and all that other extra drama. But whether you realize it or not, it's going to have a psychological impact if you are a caring and compassionate person. One might say, how can you be if you're going to do that? But you can be, and I know that. But if you are, and you do end up making those types of decisions while you're out over the road, it's going to have a psychological impact. And so if you got to understand this. So if your wife is a caring and compassionate person, if she's somebody that cares about you, cares about your relationship, she probably is observant enough in your nature, in your character, in your personality, that she's going to notice the ever so slight change in your attitude when she brings up, well, I tried to call you Friday night, I tried to call you Saturday night, I couldn't get you. The person don't have to ask about where you were, what you were doing, or what the deal was. If it was you, then you would be wondering. So you not addressing that is kind of odd, especially if you are somebody that and any other time would have automatically addressed it. Oh yeah, I was such. But you know, you're like, you know what I'm saying? So these little things that you think, she don't have any evidence. What are you talking about evidence? Evidence is not what's important. The difference in the dynamics of the relationship is what's important. If you care about your relationship, if you care about your wife, forget about evidence. It's going to have a negative impact on the relationship. If you care about your relationship, if you care about your family, I don't see how you can justify going out and getting involved in other relationships on the road. It just does not make sense. You know, sometimes I guess people just don't really think about it at the time, or you might put yourself in this situation where you are unable to deny the temptation. Well, what you have to do then is avoid being in a position where you're tempted like that. You know, if you know the likelihood, I mean, to be honest, okay, so a lot of people don't know the likelihood. They didn't realize the likelihood was there because you never had this, you know, this such a cushion of separation from your spouse. So you hadn't experienced the temptation in a long time. You caught you off guard. Well, I mean, you're just going to have to be disciplined. You're going to have to be, disciplined if you find yourself in that situation. And once you realize that you can be tempted that way, then avoid even having to be that disciplined in the future by being proactive and not putting yourself near that situation. In other words, if you don't went to a club, you ain't been to the club in a long time because you ain't really been in a situation where you can go to the club, and when you go to the club, you find out that you are easily tempted, well then you need to you don't keep going to the club and putting yourself in a position to be tempted every chance you get on a free weekend or downtime to go to the club. You just don't go unless you are willing to jeopardize your relationship by giving in to temptation. And that's pretty much how it has to work, man. That's how you have to think about it. I mean, it's just sad to see people's relationships go down the drain. You're talking about couples with 10, 15, 20 years of marriage. And some with 2, 3, 4, 5. But either way, I don't care if it's 2 months to 20 years, it's sad.